hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. The world is waking up, and this is the tipping point.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Scott McKay coming to you live from Terra Quantum Recharge, Colleyville, Texas, the Bioscalar Wellness Center with technology that is revolutionizing the way people see their health and wellness. Give you a real quick look at what we see here. I have got a spin going on here, and if you can see over there in the wall, that is the man we honor, Nikola Tesla. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. If people like J.P. Morgan, scumbags like Westinghouse, Thomas Edison, were going to drive this man and his technology, world-changing technology, free energy for the world, wireless technology way back in the early 1900s, if they're going to put him down and keep him from bringing to prominence the aspect of the infinite energy from magnetism to the world, well, then that's what we're doing here in the Tipping Point. Patriot Street Fighter unleashed that salvo of, we call it wellness warfare, taking the battle right to the mouth of the dragon, Big Pharma, the murder machine. And that is a machine that has gone off the rails and has brought a whole new realm to what we call healing. It's bizarre. Most of you know what I'm talking about. The weapons of war they've used on us, whether it's the kill shot, whether it's the fake virus COVID, whether it's remdesivir, or slamming a ventilator down someone's breathing pipe while they are in a cytokine storm and taking them out. That's what they're fighting us with. What we're fighting them with is this bioscalar conjugated photonic field created in this dark room behind me to show the world exactly how this works and what it's going to be like moving forward. Glad you're all here tonight. We're going to have an epic show, as we always do. I can see that there's a delay in how I am seeing myself on the screen here. That's kind of weird. Bit of a delay here. I don't know why. I guess I can handle it. But folks, the reason we're here tonight, the reason why Revolution Radio, why did I choose Revolution Radio as my warfare platform for this particular show called The Tipping Point here in Revolution Radio? Because this is a platform that doesn't kick me off because they don't like what I say. You know why? Because they don't have big pharma commercials every 20 seconds like big pharma, or the big pharma controlled news channels like Fox News and all the rest for that matter. They're not funded by these criminal companies. This is funded by you, we the people. If you'd like to support what we do here at Revolution Radio and all the amazing guests, or I should amazing hosts that have channels here on this worldwide network, you can simply look around on the page. You'll see top center left. There's a, I was going to say contribute, but there's a donation tab up there where you can click it on, make a one-time donation, however you like. If you like to set something up where you can donate on a consistent monthly basis, set it up for whatever you'd like, a small amount, lot, doesn't matter. It's the intention that counts. You can set that up, develop a free Patreon account there. You can donate also by snail mail with a check. You can make a check out to Revolution Radio, send it off to Terry Ackerman. Her name's on the page here. Look around a little bit, you'll find it. One of the producers up in up in Ohio. So you can donate Bitcoin. There's other ways to support this network if you so choose. For those of you who have always done that, including myself, thank you for what you've done. The general used to donate, of course, when he was still with us, but they found a way to get to him. That will be answered in the years following the takedown of this criminal satanic empire. Got a lot of work to do between now and then. I want to thank all the people over there in the back end of Revolution Radio for the tireless work that you all do over there. And that's why I'm still alive on this network. This isn't YouTube. One side note on YouTube, I do still have a channel up there. Patriot Street Fighter 38 is still alive, my 38th channel. 37 they've taken down. They have found a way to keep me off of YouTube. I've got the channel, but they've got a whole floor. I think it's floor number 7 of milquetoast pussies that are sitting there. There's only one door into that building, into that room on that floor, and it just says Patriot Street Fighter above it. And they've got a whole legion of these MTPs with their sister skinny jeans trying to keep me out of YouTube. They've been successful so far, but we'll find a way back. At least I did make the prediction that I would still be on YouTube when the CEO, Susan Wojcicki, was gone, and that came to pass. She's gone. I at least still have a channel up there. We'll make it work one of these days. Have a little fun. Hey, a lot of my friends are over here tonight. Robin PSF is with us here in the thread over on the Rumble channel. Dobie Dave. By the way, anybody misbehaving in here tonight, you're going to get an ass whooping because I'm in that kind of mood. So I got my Sentinels in there. We've got Dragon Lady 13's in there. She's on post right now. A lot of my friends are in there. You guys go ahead and keep a lookout for any trolls in there, scumbags, milquetoast pussies, all those people. And if you need to get my attention, write it in capital letters. Hey, Scott, we found a scumbag. Go get him. Let me come in and make short work of him and toss him out. Just fun sport that we get to do here in this war in the battle for Earth. So got a couple of short announcements tonight. There's a few things in motion. We're going to get these things up on the website in hopefully within a week. We have Dr. Sandra Rose Michael coming into Terra Quantum Recharge on the 15th of April. She's going to be in town for the Destiny event for the weekend, but she is coming here the following Monday. We are going to do an event here at Terra Quantum Recharge. She's going to be here. She will be live on the radio show here with me, and then we're going to do a Q&A afterwards. There will be tickets to purchase for her appearance here. She is the Yoda of the scalar world. If you had the opportunity to come, be here. It's truly an epic experience to be able to meet the inventor of this technology, who's been highly protected by the military since the late 70s because of her value in this world that we are now refashioning and rebuilding into the Garden of Eden. That's on the 15th. We also have an event coming up on the 20th here, again, at Terra Quantum Recharge. Dr. Edward Group from down in the Houston, Texas area. Most of you have seen him here a couple times. He's an iconic figure in the world of natural healing. One of my favorites with him is the Liver Detox Protocol. We'll talk about that at some point. I've done 5 or 6 of them in a row. It's amazing what he has done with his line of science, research, formulation, like Mike Adams out down there in Bastrop. People like Dr. Ed Group, amazing operations they have. And we've aligned with them just recently, and Mike Adams a couple of years ago. Mike Adams is one of the, I think Mike Adams is one of the most iconic people in the movement. The guy was on the hit list, Monsanto's hit list, #1 at the top at one point. So these guys are doing some real damage against the machine that takes people out. It doesn't solve their problems or cure their diseases. It's built to take them out. So that's going to be on the 20th. Tickets will go on sale. That'll be a 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. event. All Dr. Ed Group, full throttle. It's going to be an incredible day. I'm hoping we're going to do a little bit of have some conversation dialogue on urine therapy, I guess you'd call it. Some of you people be taken back by that, understandably, but once you come to realize yet another lie they told us about our urine, which is loaded with stem cells, made us think it was toxic and poisonous. Again, just part of the bullshit machine that they built. They inverted everything, turn it upside down, Satan style, and make everything incomprehensible when it comes to dissecting reality as it should be. So that's the date coming up. We also have yet another event that just went online today. My friend Annie Garrett and I are going to put on a Patriot Street Fighter event in Columbus, Ohio, the weekend of March 11th. We just went into discussions. We've got an unbelievable location and venue, a 350-acre horse farm that looks like a Kentucky Derby um, design structure, the entire property. It's going to be an interactive weekend, not just sitting in seats, listen to Patriots talk. We'll have some powerhouse speakers, but we're going to bring in some utility speakers and other type of enterprises that will help you and I prepare for what's to come as this battle heats up and the economy starts coming down, the U.S. dollar coming down. I did an economic update with Dr. Kirk Elliott today. Interesting things happening in the imminent banking collapse. We've talked about this enough. It hasn't happened yet. They're still buoyant. Quite surprising that they are, but we know why. They're manipulating everything, markets and otherwise. But before we get into talking about any of that, one of the things that I want to talk about for a second is an update on on Sarah Maccabee. Ronald Colton Maccabee, his wife Sarah, gave us an update today. We know he's battling the J6 crowd, and how do we talk about this, folks? How do we continue on this path where this crime syndicate is still imprisoning and incarcerating people, putting them in solitary confinement for the things that were done by the FBI clowns in America, the setup on January 6th of 2021. We know that we've got a great guest coming in tomorrow night. This is a tragic story of a single mom who's being ripped from her newborn baby and her kids to go spend time in prison for simply being there. It's astonishing that this bullshit is going on, but this is what we're dealing with, of that captured foreign territory called Washington District of Corruption. We're going to talk to her tomorrow night, but we do have an update also on Ron Maccabee. This was a sheriff who was protecting people at that Capitol. He protected a police officer that was down, and yet they put him in prison. So now, this past Thursday, he was sentenced to 70 months, 5.8 years, a $2,610 fine, $32,000 in restitution, 36 months of supervised release. He will get credit for the time that he has served, but he will still do another 22 to 28 months in federal prison. I'd say it's more likely the gulag. We will begin the appeals process, she said, hopefully next week once a ruling is in writing. You know what, folks? If they want to really round up criminals in Washington, D.C., they need to clear out, and I mean clear out, 535 prison cells, and I'd probably whittle it down to 30 or 500, leave 35 of them walk. And that's Congress. That is the Capitol building. That's the United States Senate and the criminals that are serving in Congress, the scumbag class. It's time to start perp walking these people into the prisons, and I'm going to tell you why. Every problem that we have in this country, every single forking problem, is at the feet of one class of people, the political class in this country, the scumbag class. They're the ones that, number one, set policy, number two, enforce policy and drive it down our throats with their statutory criminal architecture, the corporate architecture. They built this country to be run by corporations masquerading as governments, courts with their corporations masquerading as courts. We've got corporations masquerading as law enforcement. All levels, this bullshit's going on. That's why Tactical Civics has become the fourth warfare platform for Patriot Street Fighter and here in Tipping Point. It's a mission that is blown up in 1 year. We took something that's been languishing for 4 years and we've blown it up by 150 chapters, is now over 1,600, going to 1,700. Over half the counties in the country now have a Tactical Civics chapter to bring back the constitutional county grand jury, where the people take everything into their own hands in terms of justice, because the justice system in this country is not a justice system. It's an injustice system. That is at our feet right now. And we've gone from, I think they were right around 500 people that were involved. It's now over 7,000. That's what's happening in the tactical civics movement. So, all that being said, that's kind of the sports shorts for coming into our main guest powerhouse, Miki Klann, the epic architect of Bonds for the Win, where they basically were able to, she was able to educate people on the fact that all these people in these elected positions are bonded, and they are also held liable legally, civilly, and criminally for the bullshit they put on this country and our kids by masking everybody. When she took that war to them, it didn't take long. Finally, when the governor served, had his bond pulled, and basically was now informed that he would be personally liable. And we're talking, I believe, 1.2 or 3 million per offense. Uh, he got it real quick. And within a week, they brought down the mask mandate across the entire country. Wait till you see the shit show that she points out tonight on their architecture and how they captured these pirates, captured the ship, and how we're going to dismantle it. It's a war of language, a war of words, and that is what you're going to see tonight. It's going to be epic. In the meantime, what's happening economically? This did catch my eye here this morning, and Dr. Kirk and Elliott and I talked about this today. That economic update is coming out, but this again is coming on the heels of some of the banks that have collapsed in the last year. So I'm going to run through this here. And Vandersteel released this today. Banking collapse imminent. The reset has begun effective March 26, 2020. The Federal Reserve Board reduced reserve requirement ratios on all net transaction accounts to 0%, which is absurd to me. I can't understand how these people have gotten away with this for so long. Eliminating reserve requirements for all depository institutions. In the spring of 2023, the banking collapse started with the smaller regional banks. In spring of 2024, the next wave of banking collapse will continue. November 2023, the CEOs of Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and JP Morgan told Congress they could not go from 0% reserves to be held to a 3% reserve balance. Why? They're supposed to have money on hand. They can't even get from 0 to 3. If this is not a Ponzi scheme, I've never seen one outside of the security system, and these criminal bankers get away with it. Word to the unwise, the Rothschild clan, your days are numbered, the hourglass is upside down now, and there is not a hell of a lot of sand left in it. So we're going to be very joyful that day when this whole banking empire comes down. This fractional reserve bullshit that we've had to live with, it's robbed us blind and wiped us out. The current deposit to loan ratios means the banks cannot sustain any type of run on the banks. When the people realize what's happening, there will be a run on the banks. Effective 11 March 2024, there will be no more money to loan out, and the Fed will pick and choose who gets to loan money. Congress passed the bail-in provision with the 2010 Dodd-Frank Act, or the 2010 Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, which allows, and I've talked about this many times, the banks to confiscate assets. What does that mean? This happened in Cyprus about 14 years ago. In Cyprus, because of their austerity measures they were facing to keep the government buoyant, because it did what? Stole the people's money and spent like a bunch of worse than drunken sailors. At least the sailors were drunk. And they put the country in a position where it's going to collapse. So they went to the UN to see if they can get a resolution passed acceptable to all the countries that were going to vote, that they would be able to go into the bank accounts of every depositor in the country and steal their money. Well, naturally, the UN, the second highest level of scumbags on earth, what did they do? They approved it. And now the people of Cyprus lost all their money in their bank accounts. That's called a bail-in. Here's what it means for you and I. The bail-in relief was legalized in the U.S. following the 2007-2008 financial crisis, in which the banks deemed, quote, too big to fail, were bailed out by the U.S. government. The specific section of the Dodd-Frank that deals with bail-ins is Title II Orderly Liquidation Authority, OLA. Who's exposed? 401k retirement accounts are exposed. Currently, there are 27 trillion in retirement accounts. Also exposed, people with cash positions in banks will also have their money taken. Now, is this going to happen? I don't know. I'm just reading the sports shorts for you. The banks have already stated this by limiting how much money you can take out, transfer, or Zelle, or move in general. Haven't had that problem yet with my bank. I have a great bank and a great banker, but I did warn them. If it gets to be that, they know what's next. This will be the demise of the middle class, leading to a recession, then a depression. People will be left with nothing if they do not diversify their cash into paying off loans, buying gold, silver, crypto, or other hard assets. The potential, this could keep Trump from winning the White House. In a bank collapse, the government could institute martial law, shut the banks, and ration your access to the money. I will say this: if it appears that Trump is unbeatable, which he is unbeatable, nobody on earth can beat Trump. I've said many times, if Christ dropped his feet on this planet and he ran against Trump, he's going to lose. Nobody can beat Trump. Now, calm down, my Christian friends. Stop flipping the fork out. I'm being facetious to a degree. I'm just driving a point home. But Christ is saying, no, Scott's right. He's pretty forking accurate. I don't think I could beat Trump either. Anyways, that Trump is simply Christ, is a man in Christ's form who's bringing warfare like he did temple style to this battlefield. Let's see here. What they're saying is this. It says the loss already sustained in 2020 is worse than what happened in 2008. The stock market manipulation, coupled with the massive money printing and inflation, has done a better job of masking the incoming collapse. It says, and the collapse is coming. Worldwide markets, Hong Kong, Japan, Standard & Poor's, Dow, all-time highs. Why? Because BlackRock, Vanguard control trillions in assets, and they are manipulating these stocks with sustained earnings and rotating out any stocks that cannot perform and rotating in AI stocks into Standard & Poor's 500 and with other exchanges. The result, the stock markets will hang in there, but the banks and the dollar will collapse. Cryptos are going crazy and will allow purchasing stocks with crypto. As the BRICS come on more online, you're going to see the transfer to the asset-backed transactions, like the new ABEX exchange will facilitate in LNG, whatever those are, and battery metals. What is a hedge against inflation? With the last month in the crypto market, you can't ignore that crypto, gold, and silver are the hedge against inflation. Warning: keeping cash in banks is not safe nor a smart play. Putin had this take on the US dollar, which I don't want to play here because it'll take too much time, but most of the people have talked about what Putin has been doing to engineer the downfall of the international IMF currency, the United States dollar. It is not a United States currency. Most of you know that at this point if you've been on this channel. So my reason for telling you that is we've heard this for a couple of years. It doesn't seem to happen when we think it's going to happen. Not my fault. But once again, I said many times, you better be prepared for anything and everything, because this thing is going to transition. It could come down, it could collapse, but I assure you, it is transitioning. All the indicators, you can't ignore this. At this point, it's just what is taking place. You can do something about it or not. Most of you know that I've been working with Dr. Kirk Elliott for not quite 3 years, and we've brought many, many thousands of people to take their position out of any markets or cash. I'm not the guy to talk to about that because I am not SEC regulated. I'm not a financial advisor, an estate planner, or any such thing. I can simply tell you what I have done. I've done exactly what I'm telling you may be an option, but I don't know because I don't know your position. I just know I've been moving cash out of my banks every time I need or have extra cash, and I do not need it for operational expenses. I just get it out and I purchase more silver, because when the shit show comes down, at least in the very worst case scenario, I'm still going to have everything that I once had, because, and it's likely, as most of you know, it's going to go up as happens in these situations. So whether it's gold or silver, those are my options that I've moved on. I think it's good to have some smaller denominations silver at home. If you need to get into bartering situations, I'm not looking at doom and gloom, but hey, I might buy about, I don't know, 20, 30 cases of cigarettes with, I don't know how many cartons come in a case, but that's some good bartering. It's a lot of things you can barter with. Again, this isn't a thing. I'm not looking at a fearful situation for myself or you. I'm just saying, again, the indicators continue to come out, and you know how many people are the ones that get caught because they don't listen. They think nothing's ever going to happen in America. Ask GM workers from the engineering of the Bush destruction. Can you formulate here discussing the destruction that has come from what the Obama administration did on the heels of the Bush administration, from the scumbag dynasty. That's the story where many of these people had worked for 35 years for a nice retirement and they walked away with nothing. So, as we say, you don't want to, it's better to be a day early than a day late. It's better to be a year early than a day late. It's better to be 3 years early than 15 minutes late, because once a call goes out on Wall Street, it's over. You're the last to know about it. I'm the last to know about it. But you might want to consider those things. Again, be careful where you look, who you talk to. Again, I can talk to you about Dr. Kirk Kelly because it's the only experience I've had in the precious metals markets. 28 years, heading 30 years in the markets with precious metal. But not just that, stocks, bonds, you know it, you name it, he's done it all. It just happens to be the best play. You can see the number going across the screen here. If you want to reach out, talk to them. Just have a conversation about your situation, because everybody's different. If it doesn't feel comfortable for you, don't do a thing. Listen to your gut. Listen to your instincts. Now, let's get down to business. If dismantling this pirate shit show that has been, I guess, what we would call the crown-backed government since 1871, goes far deeper in our past, but 1871 is when they began the corporatization of this free country that turned us all into debt slaves to the British Crown. Thank God those suckers are dropping like flies all over the place. Man, are these people backing up like crazy, taking leaves of absence? One's got cancer. Go down through the list, but it's pretty fun to watch these people being removed from the field. Anyways, I think you're probably going to hear tonight one of the most epic researchers, and I should say provocateurs. Uh, I'm not even going to tell you any of her story, but I'm telling you, she just dished out yet another ass beating on a board of supervisors in Maricopa or Maricorruption County. And it is truly epic. So we're going to have this discussion about what happened there and what provoked her to do it. But more importantly, the entire skeleton and framework of her research that now is shaping up as a platform and a narrative, a battlefield that we're going to get to operate on, just like she formed and built with Bonds for the Win, that brought down the mask mandate at the federal level on down, collapsed it literally overnight. There's a new adventure for all of us coming, and this is where Patriot Street Fighter is digging its heels into in this battlefield, because we're going to help her accomplish, again, on a much broader scale, of taking our country back from the pirates. Let's bring in one of my buddies, big supporter, huge supporter of Patriot Street Fighter, Miki Klann. There's the beautiful lady. I just wanted you on here tonight to make me look good. You don't have to say shit. You just show up and, man, I already look great. I think I do. Well, all right. The scumbags in there are going to start jumping on me for saying such narcissistic words, and that's why I said it. So let's hear from you for a minute. I want to see how your volume is over there.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
It's very low.
I have a feeling it's
and
not
I don't
connecting to the mic, and I'm not sure.
I think it is not either. I wonder if you're in a browser, can you check another browser and see if that connects easy? I do that sometimes over here. I get weird stuff going on with cameras. Mics are always pretty good, but we
All right,
need.
do you want me to leave it back?
Boom, you're on. Stop right there. That's Mickey.
Okay.
That's what here. Okay. So now let me just. I have to read this if you don't mind. I'm trying to steal a little bit of your thunder here, because I can't keep up with you. So I'm going to take a little bit of your thunder. I have got to read to you, folks. I've got to read to you what Mickey sent to me, and this is what came to me last Wednesday, and I was so fired up when I woke up in the morning. I read this, or in the afternoon, I should say. I woke up and I read this. Here is her dialogue. I think it was the Board of Supervisors. She'll correct me wherever I was, or where I make a mistake. Hi, my name is Miki Klann, and I'm here today to put you on public notice and to inform you that you are not our elected officials. This is in front of the board, or in Maricopa County. None of you have ever signed an oath to the Republic of Arizona. Instead, you've signed an oath you signed an oath of office to a foreign corporation, which means this is an act of insurrection. You do not have a proper bond carrying surety for your actions to we the people. Due to all the voter fraud, you have never been formally voted in. Acting as if you have any authority over the people is a direct act of treason. Today, we, the body sovereign, are presenting you each a notice of liability and an opportunity to cure. The fine is $1.75 million per claim, and there are 12 signatures, which means you are each personally liable right now for $21 million. If you do not resign in 3 days, you will be presented with a writ quo warranto, a waiver and a waiver of tort. If you do not rebut these truths and you remain in office, we will be notifying the military, and your act of treason will be grounds for an immediate military tribunal. I don't need to tell you the penalties for treason. We, the body sovereign, hereby command you to resign within 3 days or else face the consequence. I am here today to hand you this jump drive, which contains a 5,000-page document notifying you all of the dangers of the COVID vaccine and the poison in the water, to name a few. These are high crimes and acts against humanity. If you cover up high crimes, you will be held guilty for committing acts against humanity. Therefore, I hereby command you to send a public broadcast to every resident in Maricopa County, notifying them of these dangers within the next 3 days, or you will be in direct violation and derelict of your supposed duty, making you even more accountable for your actions. Notice to agent is notice to principal. You have been formally served on record. We just got the entire board, as Miki sent over to me, we just got the entire board of supervisors in Maricopa County to run out of the room. Cops surrounded her and her people. They got served anyways. They're not afraid. Now you see what happens when people who are unafraid, have no fear, face a corrupt bully system. I've been saying this on this radio show since 2020. These people are forking cowards, and when we the people, stand up, they're cowards and bullies and pussies, and they always, well, I won't insult pussies because they're milquetoast pussies. They don't rank that high. They always run out of the room. So, as Miki said, we're the news now. She walked out and she also yelled to the police officers, they're poisoning your children too. Another epic display of badassery, Miki, out in the public, taking on the criminal empire. You energized me again after I read this. I had to call you, and I was like slapping myself high fives because you weren't there. But we're going to have fun tonight, people. You're going to learn what they did, how they did it, and how we're going to undo it. So welcome to the Tipping Point, your first time here on this show.
Thanks for having me, Scott. And just for the record, it was not my speech that got them to run out of the room. It was actually a woman named Laura Weaver, and they knew what we were about to do. So they left the room before I gave my speech. I had sent you my speech before I, got blocked from freedom of speech. So what happened was, after they ran out, I tried to hold the meeting, and I thought that I should go ahead and basically vote in some volunteers out of necessity, because we're looking at a foreign insurrection. I later learned that these are not public buildings, but I'll come back to that in a minute. So what happened right after they all vacated the room is we called out that you were being served, because the reason I think they got a little edgy is because we were in the back row signing a ton of paperwork. I mean, there were like 25 of us shuffling papers, trying to get everything signed and notarized before we served. And it turns out we didn't actually have to have it notarized, but so they left. I gave an interview to a few of the people holding cameras, letting them know what we were about to serve them with. And then I went ahead and I took over the mic, and all of my friends were recording me as I just went ahead and gave that speech, because I figured, well, I'm putting it out on social media. This is what I came here to say. It is my freedom, and I'm going to speak. And then we went ahead and walked across the courtyard to serve them on the 10th floor of the building next door. So yes, notice to agent is notice to principal. And they can act like we can't serve them, but no one's above the law, Scott.
I love how you do it. I'd like to be on the sitting end of one of these clowns, just being there right beside them in their mindset to see what they're thinking when they're starting to hear a language they'd never heard before. All I can say is, my guess, they're thinking, holy shit, is this real? Is this truthful?
Yeah.
Could we really be in trouble? What you all are going to learn, and specifically at the county levels, at the lower local levels, you are in very deep shit. You don't know it. We're not here to try to drive your head into it. We're here to rescue you from it if you're willing to start listening, learning, and being willing to take an oath to serve we, the people, not we, the corporation, we, the people. And that's the framework that's coming at all of them. So, Miki, can you explain it all? I mean, you do an epic job on how they captured the ship, how the pirates boarded ours, took it over, and what they instituted in the framework of language and statutory nonsense to enslave all of us, to rob us blind and wipe us out. Can you give us from the bottom up that architecture?
Absolutely. Well, let's start with the fact that the number one Achilles heel that this devil's army has is that 99.999% of the people working for the devil have no idea. They need
True.
to be served and put in check.
Mm-hmm.
We really are not dealing with the Red Sea parting between good and evil. We're actually dealing with awake and not awake. And people need to put food on the table, so they feel dependent on their jobs. Many people were forced inoculated because they had to keep their job, but there are still many people that are inoculating people. And let's just say it like it is, Scott, this is the heavy machinery. These are the guns firing at us every single day. There are thousands of people being inoculated every single day. We have to stop the madness. Innocent newborns. We're talking about innocent newborns here. We're talking about every single school district forcing kids to have certain list of inoculations before they even show up to class. That's not acceptable anymore. We have to understand this is genocide, people. Get off your ass. Sorry, that came out. So
100%. Don't stop, please. Keep the tomahawk swinging. Swing the tomahawk. Let's go.
You know, at the end of the day, we can't continue to be so tacit. Okay, we have to understand there are 4 doors to every presentment. 2 are honorable, 2 are dishonorable. 1 is operating in acceptance. The 2nd is operating in conditional acceptance. The 3rd, more dishonorable response is to operate in argument, which is where they love to keep us all the time. We are constantly arguing with one another and them. There are wars that have just been perpetual forever. They love to keep us at war and they love to keep us in duality. And then the 4th way to respond to any presentment would be ignore or ignorance. So we have to stop ignoring this. We have been almost like corralled into this state of just passive, tacit agreement where we just sign documents because they say so, right? We have to now become conscious of the fact that we're half of this equation. We have allowed this to happen for way too long. How long have we known this was a corporatocracy, Scott? You know, at the end of the day, it's time for us to stand in acceptance. That's the highest honor, most honorable way to stand. And I didn't know exactly what that meant until I learned about how Jesus turned the tables on the money changers. And that's what we're going to do in the masses. We're about to turn the table on the money changers because we will be debting the debtors of society. And when you debt them and you put them on notice and you put them in debt, what are you doing? You're switching the table. You're turning the table. And just let me tell you, there's 9 people sitting on this board at Maricopa County, and there's 4.5 million people in the county. There's 9 people causing all this terror.
It baffles me. I've said this for years. We outnumber these bastards by the billions. What in the hell are we taking this for? It's astonishing to me.
It's astonishing that we can't figure out how to remove these people with, you know, in a peaceful transition of power and go ahead and restore our republic where we, the people, take back control. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the 4 forms of government. We're going to talk a little bit about those 4 doors of presentment, because the more you're aware of these, the more you get to make a conscious decision on what you're going to do in just about every contract you're offered in this reality. And contract could be the contract to argue with someone just about some side deal. Does that make sense? Like the way that Jesus operated in acceptance is he showed up to the money changers and he knew what they were doing behind the scenes. He knew that they were, trading us under the table. So he said to them, they said, "Who are you?" He says, I accept who I am. And I accept who you are, meaning I know I'm a living man, and I know you're about to trade, you're about to trade me as a slave. And I also know you're trading doves, meaning children. So what he did was he said to them, and you can even do this today, you can say to them, "I'm here to review my, what do they call it? My appearance bond so that I can settle the debt in the public, in the public." So what you do then is the judge has to give this appearance bond to the bailiff. The bailiff has to give it to you. You can sign up and down, top to bottom, bottom left to top right, your all caps name, and then rescind and the date. And then you can take photos of every single page. You need to write that on every page and take photos of every page. Now you walked out of there with evidence that they were trading you via bonds in the, in the private without you even knowing it. Right? So what he was doing was he was operating. Yeah.
Can you explain it in detail? Because I think a lot of people don't know the depth of your research on these simple concepts. It'd be very helpful.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that. Let me just finish this one thought, because I want people to understand the difference between acceptance and conditional acceptance, because these are two honorable ways we can walk. So what he was doing was he was accepting their sin. He was allowing them to commit the crime, and then he went and showed the people how they were committing the crime. Whereas the second door of presentment would be a conditional acceptance. That might be a, "Sure, Your Honor, I will agree to contract with you if you can prove jurisdiction over me," and they can't, because they're in maritime and you're a living man or woman. And they can't prove jurisdiction over your living man or woman, right? Because the corporation cannot commit a crime. My corporation cannot run a red light. And they're accusing the corporation. They're not accusing the living being. So when I conditionally accept, and in fact, when Dr. Jan Helper Hayes came out, first right out the gate, she was on the news, and she said that Trump has been able to avoid 72 cases because they didn't have standing. What she meant to say is, and what that means is, there either wasn't a victim or they didn't have jurisdiction over him. So he knows exactly who he is in this system. And I think right now they're doing a lot to show us a lot about how corrupt the courts are, because these guys are pirates. They make the rules, they change the rules, and just guess what? Your rules don't apply to them because they're a corporation. And that's why they came in as a corporation. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But let's just simplify that, because I don't think a lot of people realize what's happening in every single court case. In every single court case, they're opening a trust in your name, and they're putting a bid, a performance, and a payment bond in that trust. Now, Scott, did you give them permission?
No.
To do that? No. And were you given informed consent?
Of course not. They never do that.
Of course. Right, because they're operating in fraud, and all fraud vitiates fraud so long as we stand up to it and we stop acting in ignorance. Okay, because that conditional acceptance is great to get you out of your own court case, but it doesn't save the people. Does that make sense? So they love to keep us in argument, and they love to keep us in ignorance, and they love to just make fun of us every time we come in there. It's like getting on a pirate ship. They hand you a sword. They know the rules. You don't know the rules, and they're trading you under the table. So with that bond that they create, you can go to treasurydirect.gov and see every single bond they've ever opened for every court case. And you have to kind of know how to look it up by court case, look it up by social security number. But this will give you proof of what they're doing. And this is how they fund their crime syndicate. So if an officer pulls you over, do you want me to give that whole scenario?
Please do. I love the detail of this, Miki, because again, you stated these things so many times to so many people. I don't like to assume any of the folks here tonight know everything, learned everything as you've gone through the process. So I love when you rewind it and go back in minute detail, because once people get it, once it's in their mind and they understand it, the whole game changes, because now they can't let go of it. They can't dismiss it. It's anchored there, and the energy that comes off of that perpetuates constant mental action. How do we fix this? Which means it turns into real action. So I love when you go into detail.
I couldn't agree more. And I just want to give a huge shout out to most police officers are very, very good gentlemen. Like I said, 99.99% of the Devil's Army are dependent on a paycheck. and they need to come over to the de jure, which means they've signed an oath of office to the de facto, which means not fact, fake, phony, false, corporatocracy. And now that corporatocracy is armed and dangerous. There are 18,000 police precincts throughout the United States. And so every police officer has really no idea what's going on under the tables. And so we have to inform them. And we do that through notices. Now, notices is just putting them in check. We have to red pill them. Because when I talked about that devil's army, you're really just talking about people that are awake and people that are not awake. We have the references now. We've got, JFK, A Rich Man's Trick. We've got Thrive. There's plenty of documentaries like, Plandemic 1 and 2. I mean, there's plenty of documentaries now that we can be giving people that are causing harm to notify them and give them that opportunity to come over to the good side, to come over to the alliance, if you will. So every time a police officer pulls you over, he's got a gun in his, on his holster. He's using some duress. There's a risk of you going to jail. There's a risk of him taking your driver's license, right? There is an extortion happening here. He's asking for your driver's license, and that's basically proof of your corporation. So you could say to the officer, excuse me, officer, are you attempting to traffic my person? The person is the all caps corporation. It's the name on the driver's license that's written in all caps. He is not accusing you of running that red light. He's accusing your corporation. So he's going to hand you a ticket, otherwise known as an affidavit of fiction, otherwise known as an indictment. All these words matter because it's a lawsuit. He's calling you to court. And so why is it an affidavit of fiction, Scott?
Well, because it is a dead vessel corporation that he's trying to utilize as you as a human being. It's a con job. He doesn't know it. None of them know it. I mean, they're wonderful people, as you said, throughout this whole architecture they built. They're good people, 99.99%. They're very good people. They do not know the con that they're a part of. They've been conned into a con that they have to perpetuate.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's up to us now to stand up to it because we can't continue to allow this. This is a problem when you have people coming over the border and you need protection. It's a problem when the police officers are ripping innocent children from families because CPS said to. It's a problem when they go and foreclose on homes and pull people out of their homes, when they're only one payment late and they're stealing the entire home and all equity that individual has ever paid. This is a problem. Right now, these are robocops turning against the people, and that cannot continue. So in his affidavit of fiction, let's break that down because we all know what a ticket looks like. It's got 30 days. You have an opportunity to show up to court, right? Or else you are deemed guilty. And then what they're doing in the background is they're creating that trust in your name, the bid, the performance, and the payment bond. And these courts are making anywhere from $2 to $5 million off of you and your SESTA KV, which is that trust they opened up when you were born, because they knew for a fact that they could claim you and they could start to assume that you were going to pay taxes throughout your lifetime and they could start trading you on the open market. And they have opened a bond in your name for every single thing you've ever done in the public, whether that be starting an LLC, whether that be opening a public bank account, whether that be just qualifying for a mortgage. Any one of those things, they're creating bonds in our name. So it's like, imagine having a backpack in your back that you don't even know about, but they do, and they only have access to it, but you don't, and they're going to draw money from out of it just to fund their criminal syndicate. So he hands you that affidavit. Well, what you could do is turn around and hand him an affidavit of truth. Now, I'm just flipping the devil's playbook here, okay? They took us over with the mighty pen. This is a way to explain to you what an affidavit is under the common law as a living man or living woman. I'm going to take it from a playing field down here in maritime court where we've been pushed all the way back to that 1 yard line and we were never taught offense. I'm going to take you up to a higher playing field, which is common law. And I'm telling you, when it comes to common law, the burden of proof is on them and they cannot prove otherwise. Any single word that you say in this document has to be a personal testimony, because there was no victim when he pulled you over. Mm-hmm. There is now a victim because he just trafficked your person. So you've become the victim. And you are being trafficked. That's what they're doing. So I would recommend we hand him a notice, not an affidavit. But in an affidavit, if he continues to do it after we notify him of his risk, the affidavit would be, again, a 30-day notice. He's got 30 days to rebut any and all of these arguments. There is no evidence to prove that you didn't just pull me over at gunpoint. There is no evidence to prove that you didn't just threaten my registration. There's no evidence to prove that you don't work for a foreign corporation posing as my peace officer. There's no evidence to prove that you didn't just attempt to traffic my person and that your crime syndicate isn't going to go and make $2 to $5 million off of me. This is quite an accusation. And it literally, they have a quota for a reason. But then if a police officer realizes that for every ticket he issues, he literally could be looking at $1 million in personal liability because of his own actions, because in common law, it's me as a living woman serving a living man who just served me a ticket, right? So it's 1-to-1. I'm not serving his corporation. He's the one who pulled the trigger, because again, if I hired you to work for McDonald's and I asked you to rob a bank, who's guilty?
Well,
I mean, we could say both are guilty, but the person who pulled the trigger is the one who's guilty, right? In that moment, in common law, it's every single person that's involved in the crime is guilty.
Of course.
You know?
So you know what's
so I just
staggering
want to
to
say
me?
really quick. Sorry. So now you've put him in debt, right? Because you've served him an affidavit. He's now got 30 days to rebut that. And if he can't rebut, which he can't, he cannot rebut a single word. You know, so, and again, remember, this is a negotiable instrument. We, the people, are kind. We walk in acceptance. We walk in negotiation. If he didn't know better and he couldn't do better, then we've got to give him a way out. Sign an oath of office to we, the people. Come over to the du jour. We'll take care of you. That's what we need to do. We need to start taking care of the people that are willing to sign an oath, who admit, I did not know that my employer was involved in such, atrocities. I thought I was doing the right thing. I want to continue to do the right thing. So we have to put them first on notice. Then you would serve the affidavit. If they go into default and they don't respond, that becomes a debt instrument. So anything that you just accuse him of is now owed to you, and you can send him a bill, a true bill, for remittance of payment. You can then also send that debt instrument to either a collection agency or to an arbitrator for binding, basically to make it binding. And what they were doing is they were pooling these debt instruments and then selling them upstream. So this is how we debit those that are debting society. Now, I'm not saying we debit all the police officers, but definitely the judges. They know exactly what they're doing. And these board of commissioners and board of supervisors at each county level, they know exactly what they're doing. And even if they didn't, we have to put them on notice. Same thing with the school boards. Okay, they have no right to hold records of our kids and what inoculations they have had. We can start demanding them to operate as our public servant, and if they don't, now they're liable. So what I was doing in Maricopa County is I was serving them with notice. Once you know better, you do better. You can't claim you didn't know after we served you, right? And there's no statute of limitation to high crimes and treason.
Yes, right. By the way, we got 2 minutes before we hit the break, so I wanted to let you know that.
And I just want to let everyone know that if you want to join our cause in Maricopa County, you can now go to the People's Operation Restoration, go to the Take Action tab, and you can support us at Maricopa County by filling out the Sign Now form. It allows you to submit this notice. Now remember, this is like a petition. This is just a notice. It's a shot across the bow. It's a courtesy to tell them to get out, because we can see that the emperor's pants are down. We know who they work for. They know they're not our government. They have never had authority over us. They never will have authority over us. The only authority that they derive is the authority we hand them.
And quite honestly, Miki, the entire federal structure on down is an illegitimate government. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they're all illegitimate. And we can talk about the 4 forms of government when we come back. But yeah, so, and I don't know how many more minutes we have.
We got 20, a minute and 20 seconds. Keep going. We want to hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, let's go keep going. So basically what we did with Maricopa County is this now just 3 easy steps. And I think we should probably cover the bonds for the win and why we came to these easy steps. But I just want to kind of talk really quick about what we're doing with Maricopa. We serve them that notice.
1 minute. That's what we got.
Okay,
1 minute for the break.
We'll start with the notice then. Everybody wants to know, what is the notice and why? It's really just a courtesy, and it's really us walking in honor, because you wouldn't just go slap someone with a lawsuit without informing them that you're coming. And this is us walking in honor. You have to give them an opportunity to cure and let them know of their personal liability. If we did this notice across the board, Scott, with every single doctor's office, every single nurse, every single, I don't know, any board of any kind of recommended healthcare or anything like that, we could be serving these individuals and letting them know that they're now personally liable. And we should talk about that, because, I mean, a lot of people believe that no one's guilty until they know better. And the truth is, for some of these nurses and these doctors, I mean, yes, their medical board is telling them one thing. They're busy all day, every day. They're not reading, truth or news. They're watching the media. They're watching Google. They look everything up on Google. So they really may not have been informed. We have to assume they haven't. But from the date they're informed, they have to know.
They've got their hands full, brains full. We'll clear that out for the next half. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to come back. Real quick break. Miki Klann just got finished warming up in the batter's box. She's coming up to the plate, and you're going to watch a home run slugger. This is going to be great. She'll come back. We're right back at you. 5 minutes. Not working out for some reason. Probably back here. It's not a good compliment.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message. We will not comply with the institution's sick illusion. No, it won't be televised. Welcome to the revolution. We will not comply with the institution's sick illusion. No, it won't be televised. Welcome to the revolution. They're trying to dumb us down. Don't want us to make a sound. We gotta get out of now, 'cause it's a revolution. Revolution.radio, freedomslips.com. Join me at Revolution Radio, Studio B, at 11 a.m. on Saturday for free association, when we take a look at philosophy, spirituality, psychology, social issues, and geopolitics. It's every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Studio B at freedomslips.com. Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
If you Good evening.
Are you awake yet? I hope. We've tried and we've tried for years and years to use passive resistance and loud voices to make a change. The time is over. Your governments around the world have no other goal than to decimate your entire existence at the hands of the bankers and the elites. The war is coming, and it's your choice to decide if you want to be a warrior or a victim. Denial is not a choice anymore. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the number one listener supported radio station on the planet. Not giving up. Revolution Radio, 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 radio. All right. Thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another hour of ass kicking on the scumbag class and their architecture. By the way, if you're coming for the second half of the show, you're just popping in, we got a powerhouse guest that you're going to love learning from, because the most important lessons of how we got to where we are today are not available. They're not available in schools. They're not available in institutions. They're not available anywhere unless you know where to dig, where to look, and then how to, number one, understand and how to present it. That's what you're going to get here. So if you are always looking for, I bring this up all the time. By the way, all my folks over there on the Rumble channel, great to see you badasses over there. Thanks for being here tonight. We have a new website coming out. We have new Patriot Street Fighter site. It's just about done. I don't know if it's going to be, I can't say a huge change, but there's a lot of new developments in play for Patriot Street Fighter right now. You'll notice those over the coming months. And if you have a hard time finding me, folks, you can always find me at patriotstreetfighter.com. That's how you can get to any of the video channels where we do land most of our work. Of course, Rumble. If people say to me all the time, I can't find you anymore since you've been off YouTube. I've been off YouTube for years, 2 years. But to find me easily on the video side, you can go to psfrumble.com. psfrumble.com. If you forget that, get lost, go to patriotstreetfighter.com. You will find somewhere, you'll find either Brighteon, BitChute, Rumble, whatever. Here we are on patriot.tv. They live stream when I feel like live streaming, and when I don't, we upload to Rumble. They grab all the stuff anyways. Big shout out to my guy Jason over there, who always works tirelessly managing my coming across home plate head first every week. He manages it very well. It's not easy dealing with how I run this operation, but it is Fisher Price, and it will remain Fisher Price. I have no other talent or skill set to rise me into the professional ranks. I don't try to pretend we're going to develop one, because I don't want one. It means I got to work harder. Don't want to do that. So anyways, we're going to get back to the subject matter here on how the pirates captured the ship and how it's being unraveled. But we're going to build a little bit of a baseline here with the Bonds for the Win. Most of you people saw Miki Klann roll that out with her epic research, put her Sentinels on fire, in motion, to go out there across the country and start dismantling the architecture, which collapsed literally overnight. Bonds for the Win, Miki, was an epic badass move. You became my hero. When that thing went out, I was like, yes, I know her. It was freaking awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, do you want to do a recap on that? Because I don't think people realize how far and wide that, like, we didn't know at the time what we know now, right? But at the time, we were just trying to hold our public servants accountable and licensed, bonded, and insured, right? So there were 3 steps with Bonds for the Win. We were first asking a FOIA request for their oath of office, which is their license, their oath of office, their bond, because they're supposed to carry surety to we the people, and their liability policy. And then once we received those items, then we served them. So step 2 was a lot of parents were showing up at school boards and they were serving them with a letter of intent. And in this letter, we were listing the 27 state, national, and international laws that they had broken. And we were demanding that they remove the mask mandates and they remove the porn from the library. Well, oftentimes they would run out of the room, they would turn off the lights, they would call the cops. There's so many videos going viral with the parents standing up.
Cowards,
Yeah, and right. And then step 3 would, if they didn't remove the mask mandates, was to file a claim against them, specifically against their surety bond. Well, this is the only way that we were able to figure it out. So we had 3 wins, and then we took it national. We created a website. We gave everyone the instructions for how to do it. And next thing you know, everyone was downloading these bonds. We'd realized that these were blanket policies. So Ducey's covered the entire state of Arizona at the time. Newsom, Brown, Inslee, we were posting all these bonds online. And at the time, they were threatening the forced inoculations on our children, or vaccinations. So what we did was we posted them online. We started getting all the videos coming through. But so within literally like 2 months of so many parents taking right action and taking that offensive stance, saying, wait a minute, who are you? Who do you work for? And what the hell are you think you're doing with my kids, right? So it was that offensive stance that caused so many of them to run off. They ran away, and they would come back 7 days later and vote 7-0, no masks, no more porn in the library. But it was within 2 months that 3 states dropped the mask mandates. Then next thing you know, Biden dropped the mask mandates for the entire U.S. This is 50 million children in the public schools liberated overnight just because the parents took that action. That's just action. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to put these people in check. Okay, that's what Trump did when he went and got every country to capitulate, and he laid down all that evidence on them. He put them in check. Well, this is the final checkmate move, you guys. I'm going to tell you why. We have to put everyone in check right now that is still operating and functioning and doing anything that might be considered acts against humanity. So what we did then is we started watching and witnessing as Canada joined forces with us in Bonds for the Win. Europe was serving, Australia was serving. And it was literally within 3 or 4 months that the entire world had removed mask mandates for public schools. Then it was the private schools. It was like a domino. Then it was the colleges. Then it was the department stores. Then it was the airlines. I mean, guys, we're not wearing masks anymore because people took an offensive stance en masse. They all stood up and they all did it in unison. And that's what we have to do again now that we know who we're dealing with. But let's talk about the forensics that came back from that whole operation. We found every single oath of office was null and void. They're all illegitimate. They're all signing oaths to a corrupt, phony, false, fake corporation. And all you have to do to forensically look at any oath of office is take a black magic marker and block out anything that's in all caps. And that'll tell you, and then reread the document, and that'll tell you how fraudulent the document is. Unless they're willing to sign an oath to we the people in the republic, they cannot call themselves these public servants, because they're not. They're selected officials calling themselves servants, working for corporations. That means they write all their own rules. They make their own laws. And so long as we the people corral into these laws, we will be the servants, and we will be the servants of them. They will be our slave master, period. And that's why they took over as corporations. Now, corporations are the lowest law of the land. Common law is much higher, and trust law is even higher. So we all have to start to realize now that we actually do have the power. Trump said he's going to bring power back to the people. We just didn't know how to stand in our power. We didn't know about these law forms. They had been completely hidden from us. We didn't know that we had power as a living man and woman. In fact, Trump has even dropped that too. He said, we have not forgotten about the man and the woman. They have not been forgotten, and they will not be forgotten. He's talking about the living man and woman. He's asking us to research this. He's telling us where to look. And like I said, if he's already been able to avoid 72 court cases on standing, we know this man knows what he's doing, right? So I think we should talk a bit about also the bonds. So because of this worldwide mission, we're all sitting here trying to file claims against these surety bonds, and not a single policy paid out. What does that tell you? It tells you they're not bonded, period. We had to go through their risk management departments and all their Clooney's and all their lawyers and all that crap. Bullshit. These people are not even bonded, which means they're illegitimate and they're not your public servant. And that's now what we're serving them for. So the first notice that we gave Maricopa County was exactly what you just read. They're illegitimate. They're fake, phony, false. This is an insurrection. These are redcoats. We never won the Revolutionary War. It's time to win it now. Sorry, guys, we didn't win. We thought we won, but they usurped our country in 1871. And when they ran everyone out during the Civil War, and when they came back as corporations. So what that means is the original republic was just vacated. All we have to do is restore it. And when we restore it, we take back all of our power. Because what they've done is they've rolled in a corporatocracy, aka democracy, but even worse than that, it's sort of a capitalism. So let's talk about the 4 forms of government. And this, again, I didn't learn this at school. I'm still learning how to run it. So 4 forms of government: too honorable leads you to a utopian society, too dishonorable leads you to a very dystopian society. So the best, most effective form of government would be self-governance. Because if you teach a man to self-govern and all needs are met and all communities are taken care of, you don't need government. You never did. Okay? The second form of honorable government would be a republic, and that's what our forefathers established. They were leaving Great Britain because Great Britain was pulling all this same shit on them. Okay, this is not their first rodeo. The deep state has taken out just about every country using this corporate takeover. Okay,
Yeah,
so
they've
the forefathers.
They've run the table on the whole planet.
Yeah. So the forefathers came over and said, we need to form a new form of government, one that's for the people, by the people, by God. And so that's formed in a trust. So in every trust, you've got 3 parties. You've got the executor at the top, which in this case they created. God is our executor, and as the forefathers were our grantors. We have now inherited it because we are the beneficiaries. And then you have trustees. So the trustees are the public servants, those who you hire to do what you tell them to do. And a trust indenture are the rules by which that trust has to operate. So the Constitution. And if our trustees are not upholding the Constitution, it's their only job. And they're the only ones who are able to uphold the Constitution. So a lot of times when people say you're not upholding the Constitution, well, which Constitution are you talking about? Because when the pirates rolled in 7 years later, they rolled in as corporations and they wrote their own corporate bylaws, which they called Constitution. And they called all of their public officers, their corporate officers, they called them governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, House, treasurer, House and Senate. And they did that to fool us, right? Because whenever God rolls in his kingdom, the devil has to roll in his counterfeit. And it's just a counterfeit. We give it power. When we stop giving this counterfeit government power and we take back the power simply through attention, because it's the people that are not giving this enough attention. There are so many people that have stepped up out of necessity to restore the republics in their states, like Jim Huguenin, who started WeThePeopleDeclareFreedom.com. He is a governor, and he's sitting there waiting for people to help him fill the freaking cabinet. He needs people to be the shield to tell him what to do. We are his body sovereign. The body sovereign in the republic controls the body politic, and we've never stepped up and operated as body sovereign until now. So the third form of government would be a democracy. This is when you slip into dystopia. In a democracy, it's almost like you've got the dictatorship over the people. And the people just feel that they need to beg and plead for this dictatorship to save them. These people are not here to save you. And as a matter of fact, in a democracy, it's usually majority vote. Well, then who's voting for the little man? The way that the forefathers wanted it to be was more like, we are all members. We have to show up, more like an HOA. You have to show up and vote and play a part in government. This is the great American experiment. If we don't learn to restore our government and maintain it, we fall back into this dystopia. And almost always a democracy leads to a massive disparity of wealth between the poor and the rich. Then you usually slip into any form of ism, which is fascism, Marxism, communism. We all know the isms, right? Socialism. Go ahead, Scott.
Mickey, our founding fathers hated the term democracy. They hated the structure of democracy because they know democracy is only one step from tyranny. And I try to explain this to people. We were taught this. We're not a democracy. Back in Roosevelt's era, that's when they changed it out. They started calling us a democracy. In fact, when Mrs. Powell asked Ben Franklin, when he came out of that hall that day, and they claimed that she said, "What did you give us? A monarchy or a democracy or a monarchy?" And that's not the question. She said, "What did you give us? A monarchy or a republic?" And Franklin said, "A republic if you can keep it." Those are two very significant statements and remarks. A republic, number one. Number two, and if you can keep it, what does that mean? That means if we don't take responsibility for our self-governance in our own communities at our local level, there wasn't this federal bureaucracy. There weren't state police. There weren't these kind of courts. There were common law juries. There were citizens' grand juries in their own communities, because the architecture that existed was only what they put together themselves to handle their business in that community. That's why we push so hard on tactical civics. But I give people many times on Patriot Street Fighter here, let me show you how democracy becomes tyranny and why the little man doesn't get represented. Let's just take one form of a government among a group of 5 people. Let's say they become separatists, moved up in the mountains. There's 5 of them, and they're going to have their own community. Let's make it a democracy. We got 3 men and 2 women. Okay, they're moving along for a little while, and finally, at one of their meetings, one of the men puts forward a motion to make it legitimate and legal for any man to have sex with any woman in their community, because they're carnal needs and they need men, right? So what's a possibility of a 3-2 vote for yes? You got 3 men, you got 2 women, right? It's a 3-2 vote. Guess what? These women now have to live under tyranny. Here's the difference where mob rules. A republic is this, a representative republic. You have 2 groups of people, men and women. The men can put forward their one representative, 1. The women put forward their representative, 1. Now that comes to a vote, it's highly likely that it's going to be a 1-to-1 tie, which means it cannot move forward. That is what you call a representative republic, and that's what this country is. They hated the idea of democracy. It pisses me off to this day that every politician at all levels keep using this term democracy. It's bastardized. We need to throw the word out. We don't want anything to do with democracy. That's not what we were built on. It's not what we are. It's what we do not want. Mob rule. And anyways, with that being said, we've got to correct a record. You've taught me this many times. We have to change the language. We have to change the way we speak. And in my opinion, the most important baseline word that we need to bring back to is we got to start calling this the republic, not a democracy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Back
So
to you.
now that we know who we're dealing with, and we know that they're not bonded, and we know that they're not oath, and we know that they're masquerading as government, this is an act of insurrection. It is an act of treason. It is our duty to not only put them on notice, to serve them, to put them in debt, and then to call in the military for redress. Now, we have not done this properly, and I think the military has been waiting for us to do it properly. Because if we restore a republic in each of the city, county, and state, then we are officially organized and we've got volunteers in position to hold position out of necessity until a fair, safe election can be held. Then we can call in the military, because at the end of the day, each state, back in the Civil War, there were 35 states that had formed this republic, and each of them were operating as their own separate sovereign nations. They were their own country. Think Europe. And each of them only formed a union to protect against foreign invasion. But they had formed their own republics because, number one, they each wanted to have their own constitution. They were different in Texas versus Maine. And number two, they wanted to be able to protect against domestic violence and or government overreach, which is where we're at right now. And so we are the only ones that have the jurisdiction, and that's everything Trump. They've always followed everything by the letter. We are the only ones that have jurisdiction to call in the military. Okay, Trump cannot come in. He's only there to protect against foreign election interference, et cetera, et cetera. We have to protect against domestic election interference, et cetera, et cetera. So this is important because I don't know if people realize that JFK Sr. was assassinated only 1 week after he had sent the plans to the Navy, and the Navy is the King's Army. We are all kings and queens here, people. The Navy is the King and Queen Army, and he had sent the instructions to restore all 35 republics 1 week before he was assassinated. What does that tell you? Well, if in fact everyone knew this was a coup and knew this was really concerning and they were starting the Q Army in behind the scenes, likely they restored those republics behind the scenes, and we know that Lincoln wrapped all those republics into a public trust to protect it, and then he set up the military as trust protectors. And remember, a trust cannot fail for lack of a trustee. So when the trustees fail, the military comes in as the protectors, and I guarantee you that's how Trump used jurisdiction to go get every country to capitulate.
And that was an epic tour. I can't remember, Mickey. I believe it was Charlie Freak did a spectacular video. The disposition of Trump when he was making his rounds all over the world, and we watched in either ceremonial fashion or in resignation fashion the capitulation of every single one of these nations' leaders because they were able to deliver um, DVDs, and they have all the VHS footing of all the crimes they've committed against humanity, the brutal rapes and satanic ritual abuse of children. All the world leaders, all the people involved in this, they have everything. The military has
Mhm.
everything. Trump put these in front of them, said, "We have it all. Here's what you're going to do next," and then they laid it out. Nobody was going to say no because the whole world would now learn how evil these horrible people are. They're going to play ball. And we watched it. I think one of the most remarkable acts of capitulation was watching Trump do the dance with the Saudi king at his side, holding the sword. And that is never allowed in that kingdom. The only person that ever touches a sword is that king himself. And he handed it over to Trump because that made Trump king of Saudi Arabia, and go down through the list of all of those. It happened all over the world. All the ass kissers started lining up. It was epic to watch it happen.
We saw a trail of resignations everywhere he went
Yeah,
of very,
yeah,
very rich people. Yep.
yeah.
We were
And
told to watch the resignations. And that's what we
watch
should watch now. When you should get out a pen and paper, and any of these keyboard warriors out there, you start watching these resignations because they're about to fall. Every single county is about to be served. We have posted our paperwork online. I'm not gonna tell anyone what to do or what they should or shouldn't do, but I'm telling you right now, it is our duty. It is our duty to restore our republics and to stand against these tyrants that are acting and posing and masquerading as our government. It's time to take right action now. So what we did in that first document is we accused them of 4 things: 1, not having an oath; 1, not having a bond; the 3rd, covering up and or not choosing to investigate, not providing proof of an investigating of voter fraud. We have investigated. We have evidence to prove there was fraud. They have no evidence to prove there was no fraud. Do you see the difference in that statement? And then the 4th thing that we accuse them was masquerading against government. So when they do not rebut that, or if they do not resign within 10 days, we told them it was a 3-day opportunity to cure, but they have to mail us. So if we don't receive any notices via the mail, we will be serving them that writ of quo warranto. Now, this is very similar to an affidavit, but this is what the body sovereign uses to command the body politic. It is a commandment. It is saying, now, show me your evidence that you are who you say you are. Give me your credentials. They pull us over all the time, Scott, and they ask for our ID. How come we're not asking for their credentials? I mean, this is common sense. And if they provide you with a fake, phony, false oath of office, that is not evidence, right? So you need to keep moving forward. And we are now putting them on check. We are putting them on, this is your opportunity to cure. And at some point, we can be reasonable with these writs. We can offer them an opportunity or door out. And that would be to sign an oath to we the people and come over to the Republic. So the next step, if they do not rebut within 30 days, is to send them a notice of default judgment, because default judgment means they're guilty. So you have to accept their guilty plea. They've now been indicted and proven guilty. So again, to all you truthers out there, they've been using this language to come after us for how long? They've been using the term dual society. They've created a dual society. You're looking at 2 governments right now, guys. You've got one de facto and one de jure. The one that's de jure is the one that Trump has restored and the one that we need to restore. The more you pay attention and the more energy you give to the de facto, what are you going to get more of?
Exactly.
We live in a quantum reality. We are living in a consciousness reality. If 99% of our consciousness is going to give authority to the de facto, then we are not spending our time restoring the Republic and doing what we're supposed to be doing right now. You can literally just swipe them left. We don't have to go into their corporatized offices and act like we're belligerent, because we never really had jurisdiction in there anyway. We have all the jurisdiction in the world to run them out of town, because this is an insurrection and an act against humanity.
100%. And the simple fact is, Mickey, is that obviously we have a lot of our soldiers on the march out there. The Patriot Street Fighter Nation is one of the most active audiences out there in the country. Most people know that. I mean, what they've done with whether it's Operation Tomahawk, whether it's Tactical Civics, these people move. And a lot of those people followed up with Bonds for the Win. They got in on that battlefield. But I agree with you. It's, the most challenging thing coming from where we come from in the entire architecture they built, education system and otherwise, is to understand the meaning of the term quantum physics, to understand the quantum field that is what we are all in and a part of, and how do we manipulate. I shouldn't say manipulate is when you're getting somebody to do something for your benefit. Influence is when you're getting them to helping them, persuading them to do something for their benefit. I don't like the term manipulation, but to influence people to take action in a way just in how they think. And I obviously, that was sort of my background for 15 years, which allowed me to overcome the paralysis from that catastrophic grave digging crash and learn to walk again when I have all this nerve damage, severed foot, all this stuff that happened, because I understood with my thought process, I could set in motion the quantum realm to rewire neural networks in my body to help me walk again. And we did it. And I said, I'm going to do this regardless of what they say, because then I'm going to tell the world, this is how it works. I showed you. I overcame the impossible to show that there's no such thing as impossible. There isn't. There just isn't. It's we just don't know how to tap into and unleash our power. And our power is what Christ constantly tried to remind us of. These works you will do, and even greater than I. Why? We have the manifestation power simply by thought, because thought puts out a frequency that goes into the realm of the quantum field, and it attracts the same high level frequency to start lining up the pieces of this puzzle that we can build to be anything we want. You said it. You give attention and thought to the de facto government. That's what we have. You've put in motion, and others, a lot of these great patriots out there that have taken positions of restoring at least 7 of the republics. They're in the seats themselves, in these du jour seats. They are giving attention to it. They're traveling, they're speaking, they're organizing, they're giving attention. That's why we need a broader view. People need a broader view. We need a broader quartet of people that come to this battlefield, come to this mission, and they want to get educated. They want to learn. Mickey, I guarantee you'll have another incredible site up educating people on all of this, and you just have to go spend time on it, learn it. Many of you have taken action with Tactical Civics. Look what you people have learned. You get a hold of one book, The Great Reset. Boom, you read that book, and all of a sudden people are like, that's how we perpetuated this, Mickey. They were like, holy Mary, Mother of God, it's all right here. That's what I'm telling you. This is the piece whereby we can take it all down, is the constitutional county grand jury and their duty, the duty the Constitution requires to certify a standing militia, which is the enforcement arm of that grand jury. I don't run from the term militia. I am not second guessing the founders. I am not going to let them come up with another woke word to say that. So I don't back up from any of that. Anything. Don't back up 1 inch. Don't give 1 inch of ground. One retreat, it's over. You may as well run full speed the other way, because once you show them you'll back up, they got you. That's why I never, ever, ever back up 1 fork an inch, ever. And that's why when I get on airplanes of a Southwest pilot, Louis Benoit, I'm standing there getting ready to get on. He's a captain. He's outside the plane. I walk on. He's doing this. And I'm like, maybe he wants a fist bump. He wanted a fist bump. These guys, these pilots watch me dish this shit out for well over a year. I'm not putting a fork and mask on. If I got to get through security, up it goes. I get by, off it comes. I go to get on the plane. I walk down. Oftentimes I walk right past everybody and get on the plane. If they stop me, okay. As soon as you get on the plane, pull it off. And the chick comes back, gives me shit. Okay, I always put it right here. Pull it down. I played that game the whole freaking flight until I exhausted them. I have stamina. I got these people. So don't back up. Start on the path. Stay on the path, because the only way to lose any of these battles that we have coming up is to quit, is to give ground, is to think that you should be afraid. When you stand in truth, you have power. There's nothing to be afraid of. When you stand in truth, you have power, and it'll defeat anybody in front of you. So anyways, I'm jumping off the box. Mickey, let's go.
No, and I think that's just it. You're telling them, stop walking through the door presentment of ignorance. Stop sitting there just acting like there is no problem, and actually get up and take some right action. Operate in acceptance. Tell them who they are. Let them know who you are, and then turn around outside and hold court in a public park or something like that, where we are not causing harm, we're not causing damage, we are not in a state of argument, we are not in the state of ignorance anymore. We're walking in honor, and we're going to restore this republic and teach our children and our friends to do the same. So walking in honor does mean laying down the law. It means letting them know that from now on, your hand is in that cookie jar, and if it goes in there again, you're going to get caught. We held an interesting trial by peers with some younger children the other day, and we said, let's say you have a nurse on the stand, and she was giving a vaccine, and she finds out later that she killed 10 individuals, and it wasn't her intention to kill them. Her medical board was telling her to do this every day. She needed a paycheck. She didn't know better. She was still watching the CNN news. And, they said, is she guilty? And they said no, because she wasn't informed. And then I said, okay, so what if you inform them? And they said, well, then after she continues to do it after that, she is definitely guilty. Well, have we informed every nurse? Have we laid down the law? Because we're talking man to man, woman to woman. We're talking serving anyone who's been misled right now. Forgive them, Lord, for they have been misled. We have to put them in check. We have to put them on notice. That way, if they continue to operate in the capacity that they've been operating, it's free will. So we are in a big karmic debt challenge here. We need to clear the karmic load of what's been happening in the duality of this reality. And to clear that, you have to debit the debtors of society. People might think, well, I'm not in it for the money. Well, then turn every dime that you make back into the republic for all I care. I just served 9 officials. I just made over $15 million in my mind. And even if I never see the light of day of that money, you know what I've done, Scott? I have filled my treasury in the kingdom of heaven. Because when I leave this world, I did the right thing. I listened and I learned about the golden rule. And in the golden rule, if you sit by and tacitly do nothing, that is an action. Because when you know better, you have to do better. You will be self-judging yourself when you leave this planet. You know what I'm saying? You're going to carry whatever it is that you did within this time frame. So if we go and we put everyone on check and we try to save as many souls as we possibly can from this massive psyop, then we're doing what's right by God. Okay, so I don't want people to shy down from this type of an action, this type of paperwork. They have been using the pen to enslave us our whole entire lives. We have been tacitly signing agreements that we didn't understand. How about the first agreement that you sign is an agreement to work for God? You come into our holy army and you serve them, and you do it with pride and dignity, because I don't care if you don't ever see a dime of that debt instrument. You're putting them in check, and that is the ultimate checkmate move that we have to do worldwide, Scott, worldwide.
Yes, and that karma is a wheel of karma that turns in the right direction. Look, the reason that you have these blessings happening in your world, these victories, a very large audience in the country that pays attention to what you say, is because it's the delivery system of karma. Karma is undefeated. It delivers exactly what it has to deliver based on what you choose to do or what you choose to not do. If you're choosing to do the right thing, the wheel turns with you. If you choose to do the wrong thing, the wheel turns against you. This is not rocket science. It is as simple as it sounds, but they made our existence so complex with this autocracy, with this entire maze of the quagmire of understanding, of deconstructing language, of the confusion, of all the bullshit that they stacked on top of us generation after generation. For example, the bar, the British Accreditation Registry. You want to get something done in this structure, you have to get an attorney. The founders wrote the Constitution so you would never need an attorney. It is so simplistically laid out, and with the 17 enumerated powers that any of these quote unquote governments of the people we have, if they step outside of that, what their parameters are, it's really simple. It's an act of treason. It doesn't take a law degree to understand the Constitution as they wrote it, because you got to realize we didn't have a very broad liberal arts educated class of people, the 3 million that were here at that time, or the 10 million, whatever it was. So it had to be understood by everyday Americans back then. They brought in the bar and the corporation, and then they muddied the waters. This is not hard to accomplish. All we need to do is bring the numbers onto the field. We outnumber them by the billions. We just need you to step onto the field, because this, and when you have this pulling and this draw and this calling, that isn't just an idea that comes random. That is your creator, your maker, now tapping you on the shoulder and calling on you. Are you going to stay on that bench, or are you going to get on the field? Because as long as we sit back and do not exercise the power that we have, whether we understand it or believe it or not, you're never going to become who you were born to be. I was having this conversation with somebody last night. What would it be like after you've made a contract with yourself? None of us are here by accident for this transition. Every one of us specifically are here. Whatever the rule is, your role may be just to be experience it. Your role may be to perpetuate things. Your role may be to fall backwards from a higher density and go through a terrible experience. So when you, again, return to a higher level, to your higher self, you either learned the lessons you contracted with yourself to come here through this, or you didn't. But what if your action, or the actions of others, or the ascension of others, is dependent on what you do here? For example, you have children, whatever, and you decide to sit back and do nothing. And hypothetically, the children suffer from your lack of action. What happens when you transition back to a higher density where we could have come from, and you're looking at your contract, you didn't fulfill it? It isn't just you that it caused a ripple effect on. It is the generations, the children behind you, of the lives that they were robbed of on their ascension ladder, because we did not do what we were called to do. The thoughts that hit your head, these are coming from a divine pipeline. You've got to listen to these things. Even if you don't believe in you, your creator believes in you. That's why we got the opportunity to be here. And I'm telling you, I heard a guy say this to me a long time ago. He said, you know what the definition of hell is? This is Bill O'Brien. He was the executive vice president of Martin Marietta back in the 70s when they landed the Viking on Mars. He was a tough son of a bitch. He said, you know what the definition of hell is? Like, no, what is it, Bill? He said, hell is you going to heaven and meeting who you could have been. That would be the definition of your hell. You learn what you truly could have been here. But because, again, to no fault of our own, they use doubt and fear, their greatest weapons. Doubt and fear, right? Doubt and fear. Fear of failure is the most powerful driving force that they have put upon humanity. And I'm going to tell you something. Failure doesn't hurt. The biggest winners on the planet are people who have failed. I've out-failed everybody that I know. I've been the biggest failure I've met in my whole life. The only difference is I never stop failing.
No,
Because
I don't fail. I never stop.
I keep learning. I fail, I learn, I correct, I course correct. I fail again, I course correct. I fail again, of course. Oh, I don't want to embarrass myself. You know what? Watch me. I embarrass myself in style. I have epic
And
crashes.
I want to
But
say I made a big mistake in Maricopa County, and I want everyone to hear me say this, okay? I was not acting in honor because I was a bit belligerent. I tried to take over a meeting in a foreign corporate private, building that I thought was public. So now I know better. And that's why we really shouldn't be storming capitals. We shouldn't be trying to claim these buildings. Even though we want the database of the contacts of the poor 4.5 million people that live in Maricopa County so that we can warn them, it still is a matter of we are not supposed to be belligerent in these private buildings, okay? We are supposed to go in there, serve them, and then go hold court out front or somewhere else. And I did not know that at the time. So now I know better, I do better. And I'm asking anyone that's going to do this calmly, do it surely. The goal is not necessarily to get them to run out of the room or to necessarily punish them, but rather to create a course correction.
And that's what it takes. It's again, you're learning as you're climbing the steps and falling down, Biden style. You're learning, at least you're moving up the stairway. Every time you fall down, you're headed in the right direction.
Don't compare me to Biden, the man in the mask.
You're ascending Biden style. You fall down, you get up, take another step, fall down, get up again. That's what it takes. But this truly is. Listen, this should be an inspiration point for most people. It's. You said this to me many times, Scott. There are unmarked cars that are pulling up to courthouses and taking judges away, and courthouses being closed down all over the country. Why is that? Because there are people who are learning how this system was built, and they also understand how to dismantle it with the right language, the right paperwork. And it's happening everywhere. Oh, you say I don't know about it. What makes you think you would know about it? They are going to suppress and stifle every aspect of this deconstruction of this pirate ship. They're not going to let you know, but it's happening everywhere. And you're right. The military is watching everybody. The military that is tasked with this guardian force for those people who are working to restore the public, who seem to go unabated and unchecked. There's a lot of protections out there for people who are standing up. Most people are afraid. Look, the fact of the matter is, whatever drives your fear, if it's your life, we're not getting out of here alive anyways, right? I love the movie Platoon. Whenever Barnes Red was trying to get out, there's like going to be a real bad scene coming in a Viet Cong invasion from the north, and he kept telling him, he kept saying, "I'm not going to make it out here. I'm not going to survive this." And Barnes says to him, he says, "Red, everybody got to die sometime." Right? Everybody's got to die sometime. We're so willing to hang on to the misery of this existence of a life compared to what it should be, that Christ tried to tell us what it would be, that we will hang on. Is life so dear and so precious that I'm willing to be on my knees, licking the boots of my oppressor? Is it that precious? I don't want anything to do with it. They're going to be raping kids, butchering them, selling them, breeding them in underground trafficking tunnels. I'm not living on this planet that way without a fight. I don't care what the cost is. I said from day one, at whatever personal cost to me, this is a war. And look, I've said this before. I'm stunned. I'm still alive. There's obviously universal forces out there protecting us that are going to say, you know what? Go after yourself. You're a killer, and we're going to come after you, and we're taking you all down. Period. That's what's going to happen. And I've done this in this camera
I mean,
a
this
billion
castle is ready to fall.
times.
It's ready to fall.
It is ready to
It's
fall.
ready.
It's coming.
And I believe that we, the people, are the seventh seal in the story of the book of Revelation. We, the people, have to now stand in our honor, learn to walk. Okay, we've been young in spirit and soul. We didn't know better, so we didn't do better. We didn't know the laws of the universe. These are all things that they kept from us, but now we know better, we do better. And I think that this is the year that the people rise up and outsmart the devil. This is where we flip the playbook. This is where we understand the playbook, and yes, it went deep, and yes, he was very intelligent. When they came back as corporations, why do that? You have to start thinking in the mind of the devil, right? You have to start thinking, why is that so strategic? Well, number one, they can write all their own laws. And then as so long as you are fooled into thinking they can write laws, they can just keep writing them. And like I said, their laws don't apply to them because they're pirates. And so long as they can keep that illusion going and we just keep going along to get along, then that's going to continue. So until we push against that system, but they also did all mergers and acquisitions. So they were able to acquire every three-letter agency without us knowing it because they've got a separate set of books. They were able to acquire every police precinct. You're talking 18,000 in the U.S. Now, this is just a monopoly. Doesn't mean we can't form our own de jure police precincts right next door, okay, and then get federal funding. And it doesn't mean that we can't, turn the table on that. They acquired every single court. They acquired every single, and I say technocracy and every, every meatpacking industry. I mean, Obama had sold us out to China. There were only 4 meatpacking industries. And remember when COVID hit, everyone's like, oh, we have to euthanize all the animals, throw away all the produce, throw away all the, the eggs and the, all this stuff. And then the farmers were screaming out, just like the Bolshevik Revolution. So what did Trump do at that time? He just sat there and he watched and he waited as they euthanized all the poisoned food anyway. And then he immediately funded all the farmers with over $32 billion, thereby decentralizing our food supply overnight back when he was president. So we knew he knew what Obama had done. We knew that he knew how he had sold us out. But now we, the people, have to restore our public. We have to do our part. We have to accept that divine intervention. You can't just observe it, but not accept it. It's one thing to the observer effect. And even the Masons, before they were infiltrated, believed that first you have to get the people to really, really, really care. And I'd say we really, really, really care at this point. Then you have to give them a ton of education. Okay, a ton of education on this situation, which we're learning now. We're learning common law. We're learning how to stand in our rights as a living man and living woman. And then they teach you just action. So here's what we're doing today, guys. We're giving you just action. You can go to thepeoplesoperationrestoration.com. We have posted our paperwork up there. We've got a link called Take Action. We're going to track this movement, okay? We're going to track everyone standing up to every single board of any kind, whether that is school district or city, county, state. We will track this. We will watch this as the fireworks display begins. We encourage you to become a part of this fireworks display. Guys, we are empowering you with the words that no man can gainsay, and that's precisely what will initiate this massive transfer of wealth from the wicked to righteous, because we are finally able to turn the tables on the money changers, guys. This is our opportunity to take back not only our country, but teach other countries how to restore a republic on their own, because many other countries were just so far, driven into debt slavery, and that they probably couldn't have pulled themselves on their own. That's why I believe that we in America are affluent enough. We are smart enough. We are brave enough. We are the land of the brave, home of the free. We have to now walk in that sacred honor of knowing full well that your freedom is everything. If I don't have my freedom, Scott, I've got nothing in this realm, in this world, and I don't really probably want to live in a prison planet. And once everyone realizes that it's everyone's kids that they're poisoning, and the men get up off their ass, and realize that, you know what, it's the kids, it's my own children that are at risk here, okay? Because the food, air, and the water are all poisoned. They are still inoculating your children at birth, okay? It may not be in your house, or you may not think it's in your house, but it is. He's at our doorstep now, right? So the other reasons that he benefits from coming back as a corporation is that your vote was always an illusion. You never once had a vote. I mean, we don't have a vote for Honeywell. So how much time, energy, and attention have we spent on this voter fraud? It's been going on for like 4 years? 4 years now. Everyone is still looking at ballots. And when you go ask them, hey, what's going on with the Republic? They're still out, gathering signatures to join the Death Star. So what are you going to do? Sign a note to the Death Star and then sell your soul? What are you going to do? Why would you even do that? Why don't you focus on, you know what I'm saying? We need to focus on the solutions now. We can't keep focusing on trying to invade or infiltrate their crime syndicate. I wouldn't want to go work for the mafia.
I'm glad you brought that point up. Look, I had friends running for governor, running for Senate. I tried to talk them out of it. Good men, but they didn't understand. They haven't been in that world. I had been. And when you see what it's like, you see the filth, the dirt, the mindset, the backstabbing, the minions that are just licking boots for 10, 15 years till they get their shot, because they basically wore everybody else out so they can get to serve in the state house as a state representative or get to Congress, whatever it is. I saw enough of it, and I told both of them, I won't mention their names, but I tried to talk both of them out of it. One's running for governor, one's running for senator. And I said, because I'm telling you, this is going to wreck you. It'll destroy you. And, one in particular, a guy that I love, he took a beating. He took a serious beating emotionally, financially, had to declare bankruptcy, move. It wrecked him. He realized what a dirty, filthy world it is. That's why you couldn't drag me into this architecture ever in my lifetime. Like, that's gone. That ship has sailed and it's sunk. I want nothing to do with this realm because of the mindset these people have. But as you said, why would you want to run for office? You're joining you're stepping on the Death Star. Why would you?
You're joining like the Redcoats.
Yeah, you're joining the Redcoats. What makes you think you can go inside that architecture and make a difference? That's why it's taken me not 34 years. It took me 16. But for the next, whatever period of time, 16 to 18 years, I've watched consistently. There is no way you're going to affect change, because this thing is built to capture, and it captures instantly. There's no way these people can do it. That's why I have no interest in listening to anything political anymore. Who's running it, whatever. It makes no sense. Local level, yes, because that's where we can change it all, is at the local level. We can have a dragnet at the local level, or a net system that allows none of these turds to rise, because they become sitting on the school board. They want to go to city council. This power was great. I want to move up to a state representative. This power is awesome. I want to go to Congress now. It just never stops. You can't. It's bloodthirst, and you can't quench it. That's why I have zero confidence in the look. One thing we need to do is we need to massively this year overwhelm these polls. You're saying, Scott, this doesn't make any sense. There's a dichotomy here. You're saying we can't affect change because the election system's captured. Yes, it is. This is not an election. This is an operation. This election this year is a military sting operation. We need to overwhelm the polls. If Trump, obviously is on that ballot, we need to run over this thing like we have never even more than the last one or the Reagan Mondale when Reagan crushed Mondale. We need to outdistance that so much. Why? Because they're going to steal it again. They have to steal it or stop it from happening, because if they don't, they know the decapitation begins on all of them in their architecture. But we need it to be so ridiculous and overwhelming that when they do steal it, if we get that far, even the normies are going to be like, wait a second, this is really not right. It's not good. We got to do our job. We have to overrun in this election. But in the long run, you can't count on this system that they built to get us anywhere. It never has. The deconstruction's underway, but like you pointed out to the country, Mickey, the military's waiting for us. Trump's waiting for us. We have to step in. The president of the United States does not have the power constitutionally to restore the public. He doesn't have the power. We, the people, have the power and the duty to restore our republic. Nobody else is going to do it. It's us or nobody.
Exactly. And so that's why Maureen Steele and she and I ran the nationwide walkout, which we blocked the entire San Francisco bridge with Lee Dundas when we tried to do a strike, basically to block vaccine mandates. Then she and I ran Bombs for the Wind together, and then we ran the Truckers Convoy, and now she's with me again to launch the People's Operation Restoration, and we are hoping to launch the largest grassroots movement this world has ever seen. We've already got Canada, we've got Europe, we've got India, we've got Australia. They're all coming forth. They all want to join. We're trying to bring all those contacts that we've now collected, all those media groups, all those freedom fighter groups, that we're going to educate them. Oops, I paused there. On common law. We're going to educate them on what it means to stand in honor under the common law and how to serve these individuals to get them out. Because I do appreciate what the French do. I think they're very entertaining, pouring poop all over Macron's apartment complex or whatever.
Love it.
But I don't think that that's operating in honor. I think that's kind of a little bit of a, it's kind of an argument, if you will. So the doors of presentment, let's walk in honor. Let's just serve them, and let's take back our country the same way they took it away from us with the mighty pen. It's just we can completely outnumber them.
Absolutely. Well, Mickey, it was a tremendous pleasure as always, whether we're on the phone spending hours or here on Tipping Point spending hours. It's always a blast to hang out with you. Brains and beauty come packed with a stick of dynamite. That's absolutely you. What an amazing asset you are to this country. Folks, we've got a lineup. I mean, Mickey's just kind of setting it all in motion. Epic lineup coming up this week. We're getting back to the round table. We're live. We're going to start going. By the way, I didn't get a chance to see you. Say goodbye, Mickey. But much love to you. Thanks for coming in here tonight. I know you're still there. Much love to you. Thanks so much for coming in here and sharing all of your knowledge, wisdom, and research with the audience here. So Mickey's setting in motion. We are going to start bringing back the live stream throughout the week. I don't know what tempo I'm going to be at, but we're going to start merging back into live streaming again. So it's always 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 Eastern Time. Tomorrow night, we got a live stream with a terrible tragedy that's on deck right now with a single mom, J6er, going to prison. These people are outright criminals, pirates and criminals, what they're doing to the J6ers. We bring back our epic roundtable Thursday night this week. Mike Jaco, Nino Rodriguez, and myself back for roundtable Thursday night this week. The following week, 1 week later from this Thursday, we are going to bring on, for the first time ever on Patriot Street Fighter, 107. 107's coming on. I'm going to get to ask him lots of questions. We're going to find out what Antarctica was about. I will tell you, I got a text from Juan. I don't get to speak to him very often. Once in a while, I get a text, and he'll give me just, hey, great show you did here or there. But he sent this out the other day, and it said, by the way, Judah, we did a great show covering the Amway Corporation and their ties to World Economic Forum. He loved that show, by the way, Judah. He sent me a text on Saturday. Good job with Judah. A couple days back. Hope all is more than well for you. Keep swinging. Big stuff. Weeks, not months out. Big stuff. Weeks, not months out. A little drop. We're going to find out a week from Wednesday what that looks, or a week from Thursday this week what that looks like. So it's as always great to have all of you here on the show tonight. By the way, I had to dump a number of people. I saw it in here. 3 or 4 people. Scott, stop talking. Let Mickey talk. I'm okay. All right, you're out. Here's the deal. This is my show. We run it my way. Mickey's not here for a monologue. Mickey's here for an interaction. So we're having dialogue back and forth. If you are a douchebag, I don't care if you're a constant watcher, if you're disrespectful, this is Patriot Street Fighter on a tipping point. I'm going to bounce your ass out. That's just what happens. 4 or 5, you got the tomahawk tonight. We're going to go back to old school Patriot Street Fighter coming up here with this new evolution of the mission we have this year. So if you want to come in here and be stupid, you're going to be treated like the shills, trolls, and MTPs. I'm going to bounce you out. Have a little respect. Otherwise, get your own channel and make yourself useful. This is how I run the show, and this is the way it's going to be moving forward all the time, every time. For all of my buddies in here that I see in here, much love to all of you guys. You're the best badasses on the battlefield. Thanks for being here week in and week out. Ladies and gentlemen, that is yet another episode for the Tipping Point here at Revolution Radio. And with that, music's taken over. I will say Patriot Street Fighter out. See you next week.